Hello, I'm Martin Park. For those that don't know me, I'm a naturopath and a master coach and trainer who has been working professionally in health, fitness, wellness and personal development for over 46 years. If you are someone who is interested in learning how to maximize your overall health, well-being and performance, then welcome. Today, I want to talk about something that hopefully challenges how you think about making decisions and taking action in your life. It's about the difference between asking, what should I do, and why should I do it? And more specifically, why one of these questions might be keeping you stuck while the other sets you free. Over my decades of working with people, thousands of people, the ones who actually get things done, the ones who create real change in their lives, the ones who move forward instead of staying stuck in endless loops of self-analysis, tend to be the ones who start with what rather than why. They start by focusing on what do I want rather than why do I want it. Imagine going to a coach or trainer and on the first meeting with them you ask, why do I want to get in shape? Or why do I want to lose weight? Or why do I want to start exercising and get fitter? Because if you did, you would probably still be discussing all the finer points and reasons behind your why for the whole session, and you would get absolutely nothing done. As a coach, I would rather you come to me with a direct action, as in, I want to get in shape, I want to lose weight, I want to start exercising and get fitter. That way, we could get started immediately, as there is no waffling on and umming and ahhing about things that really don't matter. Think about a child. When we ask a child about their future, we don't say, why do you want to be something when you grow up? As that would be a ridiculous question. Instead, we ask, what do you want to be? And why do we do that? Because the child doesn't need a philosophical framework or a deep understanding of their inner motivations. They simply need to engage with their possibilities. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a dancer. I want to be an astronaut. They're drawn to the action, the doing, the concrete reality of what these roles and lives involve. And here's the ironic part. That childlike approach to life might be far more sophisticated than we give it credit for. You see, somewhere along the way, we adults have convinced ourselves that we need to understand the why before we can justify the what. And in doing that, we've created what I call the philosophy trap. This idea that every action needs to be backed by some grand, meaningful purpose, otherwise we're somehow being shallow or directionless. But what if that is backwards? What if the meaning, the purpose, the why actually emerges from the doing rather than preceding it? Now, I need to acknowledge something here. Many of you will have heard the title of today's episode and immediately thought of Simon Sinek's influential work, Start With Why. And rightfully so. Sinek's ideas about finding your deeper purpose and leading with your why have resonated with many and transformed how many organizations think about their mission and communication. I appreciate his work, and I'm not here to dismiss it wholesale. In fact, for established businesses, for teams that need alignment, for organizations trying to communicate their value to the world, starting with why can absolutely be the right approach. Because when you're trying to inspire others to follow you, to be on board with your vision, understanding and articulating your deeper purpose is crucial. But here's what I've observed. When we take this business and leadership principle and apply it to individual life decisions, it can lead to more paralysis than progress. When finding your why becomes a prerequisite for taking any meaningful action, it can end up holding you back. And that's where I think we might have overcomplicated things. You see, the corporate world and the individual human experience operate quite differently. A company can spend months or even years defining its purpose, but you and I, we're living our lives in real time. We're making dozens of decisions every day. We're navigating relationships, opportunities, challenges, and changes that won't wait for us to complete a comprehensive analysis of our deeper motivations. What I'm suggesting here today is that for individuals, especially those who find themselves stuck in endless self-analysis and procrastination, sometimes the most profound why emerges not from deep contemplation, but from courageous engagement with the what that calls us to action. It's not that purpose doesn't matter, it's that purpose often reveals itself through action rather than reflection. And sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is trust our curiosity enough to follow it, even when we can't yet articulate why it matters to us. Think about it this way. When you wake up on a beautiful Sunday morning with nothing planned, what serves you better? Lying in bed asking yourself, why should I get up? What's my deeper purpose for this day? What would truly fulfill me? Or simply ask the question, what would I like to do today? I'll bet that if you start with a philosophical questioning, you might find yourself still in bed hours later, no closer to clarity and certainly no closer to experiencing your actual day. But if you start with what sounds good, what feels right, what seems interesting, you're already in motion. With that, you're up, out of bed, and running headlong into a great day. We've been taught to think that reflection leads to action. But in my experience, action leads to reflection. The most profound insights about what matter to us, what we value, what gives our lives meaning, these insights tend to come not from sitting in contemplation, but from engaging with life and then reflecting on what we discover. Now, I'm not saying reflection has no value, far from it, but I believe we've got the order wrong. We assume we need to figure out the why first in order to determine the what. But in my view, it's the other way around. Engaging with the what is often the most direct path to discovering the why. Also, consider this. Most people's long-term goals and deeper purposes aren't static anyway. They evolve, they change based on our experiences, our circumstances, and our growth as human beings. Life has a way of redirecting us, regardless of our carefully crafted mission statements and purpose-driven plans. The entrepreneur who starts a business to make money discovers they actually love solving problems. The person who begins exercising to lose weight finds they enjoy the feeling of strength and vitality. The individual who takes up painting as a hobby realizes they found a form of meditation and self-expression they never knew they needed. In each case, the why emerged from the what, not the other way around. This is particularly relevant in our modern world, where we're constantly being told to find our purpose and discover our passion. These are lovely concepts, but they can also become paralyzing if we think we need to have them figured out before we can take meaningful action. What instead of trying to discover our purpose, we simply started doing things that interested us? What instead of searching for our passion, we engaged in activities that sparked our curiosity? What if we gave ourselves permission to act first and understand later? There's something beautifully liberating about this approach. It removes the pressure of having to justify every action with some grand narrative. It allows us to be more spontaneous, more intuitive, more open to surprise and discovery. I mean, how many of us have spent countless hours analyzing our motivations, examining our desires, trying to understand our deeper drives, only to find ourselves going in circles? That's the philosophy trap in action. We get so caught up in understanding ourselves that we forget to actually live our lives. But when we start with what interests us, what we're curious about, what seems worth trying, we bypass all that mental noise and get straight to the business of living and learning and growing. So here's what I'm suggesting. What if you gave yourself permission to be guided by the what more often? What if you trusted that meaning and purpose are things you create through your actions rather than things you need to discover before you can act? What if you approached your life a bit more like the child who wants to be a firefighter? Not because they have a fully formed philosophy about emergency services and community protection, but because something about that role captures their imagination and seems worth exploring. What if you remembered that you don't need to have all the answers before you start living the questions? Life has a way of teaching you what you need to know, but only if you're willing to engage with it. Only if you're willing to act on your curiosities, to follow your interests, your instincts, and to do things that seem worth doing, even if you can't fully articulate why. Because here's the beautiful truth. The why is often waiting for you on the other side of the what, but you'll never find it if you're too busy analyzing to actually start moving. Remember, you are here for the what, the journey of life itself. Your why will unfold as you go. I thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate your company. I look forward to spending some time with you again. Bye for now.